Adil was sitting outside his tent in the sun spreading the clothes that his wife Zarina had washed from the nearby pond a while ago. 2 tents ahead of Adil's tent. The third tent belonged to Bashir Ahmad. Adil looked at it. Bashir's old mother appeared outside the tent, feeding her grandson something from a bowl, perhaps roasted gram or corn kernels. Seeing her from a distance, Adil spat on the ground in disgust and mumbled, "The witch said..." Just then, Adil's wife came out of the tent and she also heard this sentence of Adil. She panicked, said, "I washed so many clothes, my hands hurt, and you call me a witch." Adil laughed loudly and said, "Oh no! Why should I call you a witch? You are doing so much good. You are washing someone's clothes in the camp, baking someone's bread, taking care of someone. All the camp dwellers are singing your songs. I am crazy to call you a witch." "She is a witch. Look at her in front," and she pointed with her finger to where Bashir's mother was sitting. Zarina looked around and said, "Let Adil go too. This is not the time for such things. Anyway, he is an elder. Pray to Allah that He eases the hardships of all the people of the village and protects us all." Adil made a bad face and said, "Yes, I will pray for everyone, but not for these oppressors. Believe me, Zarina, the loss we have suffered in this flood, I am not as sad as these people. I mean the destruction of Bashir Ahmad's people." Zarina put her hand on her husband's face in panic and said, "Fear Adil Allah. At this time, all of us are sad, and all suffering is one. May Allah remove all suffering and see. The neighbor has a great right." Bashir Ahmad Wali was our neighbor in Nazirpur, and they are also neighbors in this tent settlement. I want to do whatever service I can to them, but I am afraid of your anger. Adil got up and said, "That's it. Leave your compassion alone. I sometimes feel as if you have a close relationship with Bashir Ahmad's people." Zarina smiled and said while going into the tent, "You are right, Adil. I have a very close relationship with them, the relationship of humanity. I and they are servants of the same Allah." Adil did not give any answer to his wife, but muttered to himself, "Ho Naha Badi came, the propagator of humanity." The settlement of Nazirpur had a good population and there was no shortage of people who were of good status, but the flood ruined everyone's condition. Standing crops were destroyed, houses were damaged, animals died, and household goods were destroyed. The water flowed away. With 2 or 4 pairs of clothes and a little food, the whole village and neighboring villages fell into this tented settlement. Bashir Ahmad's elder and Adil's father were neighbors, but for years there was a dispute between them over a small piece of land. A case was going on in the court for a long time, and no decision was reached. Zrania, but despite this case, there was so much respect among the elders that they used to share in each other's sorrows and joys. If they were to face each other, Alik would also become weak. They used to discover each other's well-being, but now in this new era, even so much evil has ended, and a bitter rivalry between Adil and Bashir Ahmad was born. There was no shortage of people who played tricks on both sides. Adel and Bashir Ahmed were told such false and true stories that the possibility of reconciliation was over, and who would do peace and reconciliation? People used to enjoy the fact that the two families had a riot and watch the spectacle. There was an opportunity that maybe the relationship between the two would have improved, but that opportunity was also lost. It so happened that Bashir Ahmed's younger brother's wedding card arrived. He had invited everyone. Adil took the card and put it back in the envelope and wrote on the envelope that this card has come here by mistake. It should be returned. Wrote this and sent the card back. Adil's mother kept saying, "Oh, my son, don't do this. My Bashir's mother wants to meet Balkis and his daughters-in-law and more. The family will meet there. I will see everyone once before I die." But the wish of Adil's mother could not be fulfilled. She could not go to this wedding and could never meet Bilqis again, and finally she was reformed from the world. The image of mother appeared in Adil's eyes, an innocent face, a good, soft-spoken woman whose tongue always had prayers for others. She wanted very much that the two families would be reconciled, but the house. They did not walk before the men of... Adil raised his eyes and looked towards Bashir's tent. Bashir's mother was now combing her grandson's head. His other grandson and granddaughter had also come out of the tent and sat by the grandmother. Adil got up and looked at the side of his tent. Went in. Yesterday was the day of the arrival of the ration vehicle. All the camp dwellers were anxiously waiting for the ration vehicles. Once I got only so much ration that I could hardly walk until the next time it came, and taking the ration was also a challenge. It was very hard work. Queues would form. After a while, they would break up, and then there would be a commotion. It was as if there was a robbery. The young would succeed, and the old would be left behind. The men would leave. The women would be poor. Samtai stood still. On the second day when the car came, Adil saw that Bashir Ahmed and his wife were not there. Bashir's old mother brought her two grandsons and stood in the queue, but then the same thing happened. The queue broke, and there was an uproar. The soul was the world of the soul. Everyone had their own fate. No one was ready to help anyone. It was a scene of doomsday. Adil's body was strong and stout. He struggled and took his ration. He tied the ration items in a sheet and started walking towards his tent. Suddenly his eyes fell on Bashir's mother, Bilqis. She was limping. Hoy was going to her tent with her two grandsons. Her hands were empty and so were the children. The ration car was empty and was getting ready to go back. Adil came to the tent and told his wife the whole story and said, "Look at this wretched Bashir. He didn't come to get the ration himself, and he didn't send his wife. He sent the old mother there to push her." Zarina said, "Yes, I know." The maid in the opposite tent, she was telling that Bashir has a high fever for several days, which has not subsided. I don't know how he has a fever. Nowadays, he has different types of fever. They have come out. There is dengue. There is Congo fever. Bashir's wife is taking care of him 24 hours, so the mother must have gone to get the ration, taking the grandchildren with her. Adil softly said, "Poor," and fell silent. Zarina said, in surprise, "Yesterday you were calling her a witch." Adil remembered what he said and he was ashamed in his heart. He avoided the conversation and said, "Zarina did not get ration. Then what will happen?" And without waiting for his wife's answer, he went out of the tent. He wandered around for a while, then sat down and enjoyed the fresh air. He thought, "This flood has washed away everything and given away. Hunger, disease, the grief of the dead and the bereaved. But look, what kind of a world is this world? Even in these times of troubles and trials, people do not stop from looting, cheating, and cruelty. There is no fear of Allah." With that, the innocent smiling face of his mother appeared in front of his eyes. His mother's lips were moving slowly even then. As always, this voice was coming from her. May Allah bless everyone, give everyone happiness, keep everyone safe, protect everyone from pain and illness. And then Adil began to stretch the tent, in which the man was burning with fever. His mother's voice again came in his ear. "May God protect everyone from suffering and illness," came out of his mouth helplessly. "Amen." And then at his own words, he went into the tent smiling to himself. The wife placed bread and water in front of him and called her daughter Hajra to eat as well. The three started eating, but Adel was finding it difficult to swallow the navala. He began to think that Bashir's mother and her son were empty-handed. They have gone back. God knows whether they will have anything to eat or not. He looked at Hagar, who was enjoying her food. A smile appeared on his face, and he stood up thanking Allah. He stood up for some time and waited on his daughter. After she finished eating, Adil thanked God in his heart that he did not let him and his wife-daughter remain hungry even in this bad time. Once again, he remembered that Bashir's old mother limped back empty-handed with her grandchildren. I don't know if there will be anything to eat in their tent or not. I don't know what will happen to Bashir. Does he have medicine or not? And yes, Bashir's mother's injury suffered during the robbery. Will there be any medicine to apply or not? Not knowing whether it was an illusion or a reality, Adil felt that his mother's voice was coming from somewhere far away. May Allah give happiness to everyone. May Allah keep everyone safe. May God protect everyone from suffering and illness. Mother. His voice came closer, and again, these words were clearly heard. Adil? At the same time, everyone's grief is the same. Everyone's suffering is the same. Everyone is in the same situation. May God help everyone. May God grant them all good deeds. Adil grumbled, Mom! I didn't listen to you in my life, but I won't ignore you now. I understand you. Zarina shocked Adil. She was saying, Hey, why are you going big for so long? What happened to you? Ignite your passion, chase the stars, and dance with uncertainty. Embrace the journey, the sweat, the tears, the laughter. You are your destiny. Zarina was surprised and said, Is it okay? What will we do if the ration is half? Will you starve? Adil said, Allah is the owner. Yesterday you said that the neighbors have a great right, and today Amma was saying that Allah grants everyone good deeds. Zarina did not understand anything, but according to her husband, she divided the ration into 2 parts and gave half of it to her husband. Adil took the ration and went out and stood outside Bashir Ahmed's tent and shouted to the children. Bashir Ahmed's wife came out and was surprised to see Adil. Adil said, Should I meet Bashir? She was not even able to answer anything when Bashir's very weak voice came from inside. Who is it? Come on. Adil went inside and Bashir was stunned. He tried to get up from the bed but could not get up due to weakness. Adil did not say anything. He went over and took Bashir's hand in his, pressed it for a few moments, and then looked at him with his wet eyes. Bashir said with surprise in his weak voice, What is Adil doing? Adil let go of Bashir's hand and reached the foothills with his eyes closed and said, Bashir Ahmad, the flood is going to wash away the old enmity. Then Adil loved Bashir's children and said, Take my dear. I couldn't bring you any other gift in the trouble. I brought what I had. After saying this, he handed over the ration bag to the children and Bashir's wife and quickly came out of the tent.